When we talk about the great hockey nations of the world, a few names instantly rise to the top. Canada, of course. Russia, for all its controversy, remains undeniably a hockey powerhouse, consistently producing elite stars year after year. Then you've got your Finlands, Swedens, the Czech Republic, and Team USA, all regular contenders on the world stage. But scroll a little further down the world rankings, and nestled quietly at number 17, just one spot above my Hungarian roots, you'll find Great Britain. Now, for most of us North American fans, the idea of hockey thriving in the UK might sound a little odd, but here's the thing. Great Britain has been playing organized hockey both at home and internationally for over a century. In fact, they were one of the founding nations of the IIHF back in 1908. And get this, they even won an Olympic gold medal in 1936. But despite that early start, hockey never quite became part of the national identity. Football, rugby, and cricket stole the spotlight, and Britain faded into the background of the hockey world. But that doesn't mean there haven't been bright spots. Players with real talent who tried to break through. Guys like Liam Kirk and Colin, who were both drafted to the NHL. Others like Ben O'Connor and Mike Hammond found success in respected leagues across Europe. But long before any of them laced up their skates professionally, there was one man who stood out, a pioneer. His name was Tony Hand. And if you've never heard of him before, you're not alone. But make no mistake, Tony was the real deal. The first British-born player ever drafted to the NHL, a prodigy from Edinburgh with vision, skill, and numbers that earned him the nickname, the Scottish Wayne Gretzky. This is his fascinating story. It was September 1981, and the Murrayfield Racers of the Scottish National League were gearing up for a matchup against their rivals, the Fife Flyers. But there was one problem. Murrayfield didn't have enough skaters to ice a full lineup. Facing a roster shortage, the Racers made an unusual decision. To fill the gap, they turned to a 14-year-old Tony Hand, adding the youngster to the team. And so this is where Tony Hand's story really begins. At just 14 years old, he would step onto the ice for his professional hockey debut. He may have been held off the score sheet in that first game, but the potential was unmistakable. Tony stuck with Murrayfield for parts of the 1981-82 season, quietly making his mark, with 4 goals and 7 assists for 11 points in 19 games. His early showing was enough to impress the Racers' coaching staff, and by 1983, as Murrayfield transitioned into the newly formed British Hockey League, Tony Hand made the move as well, officially joining the Racers full-time and taking his first big step toward becoming a star in British hockey. At just 15 years old, Tony Hand wasn't just taking part in Britain's top hockey league. He was taking it over. That season, he racked up 18 goals and 39 points in just 22 games, and added 3 more points in 2 playoff appearances. Now stop and think about that for a moment. Sure, the league wasn't as competitive as those in North America, but Tony was still just a teenager. He wasn't even old enough to drive, and he was putting up nearly 2 points a game against grown men. He was looking like a generational talent. Or maybe he was simply a very good player in a weaker league. Either way, it doesn't change the fact that at 15, Tony was doing something remarkable. But his long, high-scoring career was only just beginning. Over the next 3 years, by the time Tony Hand was just 18, he had firmly established himself with the Racers, consistently turning heads with his jaw-dropping performances. In 1984, he exploded onto the scene, racking up an astonishing 52 goals and 95 points in only 30 games. But that wouldn't even be that impressive for Tony. The next 2 seasons, 1985 and 1986, saw Tony deliver back-to-back campaigns with an incredible 164 points each year. His talent was undeniable. Between ages 17 and 18, Tony amassed a staggering 328 points in just 68 British Hockey League games. And on top of that, he added 50 points across 12 playoff games. In the BHL, Tony was rewriting the record books with Gretzky-like numbers. Over 5 seasons with the Racers, Tony racked up 473 points in just 142 games. A clear sign that he had outgrown the British League and was ready for a shot at the bigger stage in North America. And this was when the NHL suits and higher-ups were starting to take notice. In 1986, Tony would earn the Young Player of the Year award, and with it came an invitation that changed everything. A chance to join the Calgary Flames for their preseason training camp. This was Tony's golden ticket, training alongside a team that had just battled its way to the Stanley Cup Finals the previous season against the Montreal Canadiens. But just as things seemed set, there was a twist in the story. Tony wasn't heading to Calgary to suit up for the Flames after all. Tony would still be heading to Alberta, but not for Calgary. On June 21st, 1986, there was a surprising announcement in the hockey world. The Edmonton Oilers had chosen 18-year-old Tony Hand with the 252nd overall pick in the 12th round of the NHL draft, one-upping the Flames as Edmonton often did around this time. This wasn't just any draft pick. Tony Hand became the very first player both born and trained in Great Britain to be selected in the NHL entry draft, a milestone that has only been matched twice in the more than 35 years since. Originally, Tony had planned to attend the Flames training camp, but fate had other plans. Instead, for the 1987 season, he would be heading west to join their fierce rivals in Edmonton. From the very first day, Tony faced a rough start. He would break his one and only stick and would have to borrow one from Marty McSorley. Even with that rocky beginning, Tony would catch the Oilers' attention. He wasn't cut from training camp and ended up spending the entire 2 weeks with the team. During that time, Tony got the incredible chance to skate alongside true legends, Jari Kurri, Mark Messier, and the one and only Wayne Gretzky. His hockey sense stood out immediately. Coaches and teammates praised his ability to read the game, and Glenn Sather, the Oilers GM, famously called him the smartest player there besides Gretzky himself. So impressed was Sather that he offered Tony a contract to spend the year with Edmonton's junior team, an opportunity that felt like the Oilers had uncovered a hidden gem. Surprisingly, Tony would choose to turn down the offer, and instead took his talents to the WHL's Victoria Cougars, forging his own unique path. But Tony's time in Canada was destined to be brief. With Victoria, he started lighting it up right away. 4 goals and 4 assists for 8 points in just 3 games, showing that no matter where he played, he dominated. Yet, after just a month in the WHL, Tony made a surprising choice. He packed up his bags and headed back to Scotland to rejoin the Murrayfield Racers. Now, to many watching, that might seem odd. A young, highly praised prospect with that kind of production just walking away from a major junior league to play in a lesser one? The truth is, Tony was homesick. He was drained emotionally and physically by the relentless training, the endless games, and the media spotlight he faced in Canada. Instead of pushing through the exhaustion and trying to finish the season, Tony chose to return home, promising he'd come back for the Oilers training camp the following year. And honestly, you have to respect that type of honesty. Most people wouldn't admit they weren't ready to take such a huge step. He could have stayed in the WHL, miserable and worn down, but Tony knew deep down this was what he needed. Short-term and long-term. Going home meant more time with family and friends, and most importantly, a chance to protect his mental health. Remember, he was only 18. All alone on the other side of the world, chasing what many would have called an unreachable dream. Even in that short stretch in Canada, Tony's game improved, taking another step forward before he left. In just 35 games during the 1987 season, Tony Hand put up numbers that don't even seem real. And this isn't an exaggeration. He racked up 105 goals and 111 assists, totaling 216 points. Tony was just casually averaging nearly a hat trick and 7 points every single game. On top of that, he scored 28 points in just 6 playoff games, driving Murrayfield to the British National League Championship. Even though Tony had left Canada early, it's safe to say he had one hell of a year. When the season wrapped up, Hand was eager to give playing in North America another shot. He briefly trained with the Victoria Cougars before heading to the Edmonton Oilers training camp once again. This time, Glenn Sather and the Oilers decided to offer him a contract, but not for the NHL roster just yet. Instead, Tony would suit up for Edmonton's farm team, the Nova Scotia Oilers. Unfortunately, even after getting another chance in North America, Tony decided to turn down the offer once again. The reason was simple. He didn't want to get stuck in the junior system, where he might earn less money than he was already set to make with Murrayfield. Years later, in his autobiography, which I highly recommend, Tony admitted that this was probably a mistake. He reflected that instead of outright rejecting the offer, he should have tried to renegotiate the deal to find a middle ground that worked for everyone. Glenn Sather would openly express his disappointment. He really believed the Scottish forward had the talent to progress through Edmonton's system and make the NHL. And who knows, in some alternate reality, Tony Hand could have become a star, a true pioneer for British hockey, opening the floodgates for a wave of talent from the UK. That decision ultimately became the final nail in the coffin for Tony's chances of an NHL career with Edmonton. While he never played in the NHL, in the years that followed, Tony found a way to make that decision count on his own terms. Over the next 4 decades, he became a true legend on British ice, becoming the Scottish Wayne Gretzky. During his lengthy career, Tony suited up for a variety of teams in different leagues: the Sheffield Steelers, the Belfast Giants, and the Dundee Stars, earning another nickname along the way, 2-Point Tony. And his numbers were straight nutters. In just 1,309 regular season games, he racked up 1,228 goals and 3,565 points. And that's not even counting the playoffs, where he added another 431 points in 166 games. Altogether, Tony piled up a staggering 4,314 points in his professional career, an all-time record for most points scored in pro hockey. Tony set countless British hockey records and collected an impressive haul of awards: 9 leading scorer titles, 4 Player of the Year honors, 4 Best British Forward awards, and 6 spots on all-star teams. And if that sounds underwhelming coming from the literal GOAT of British hockey, it's worth remembering that many of these awards didn't even exist early in his career. Tony's greatness was simply too big to be measured by trophies alone. And that's not even the whole story. Tony's international career with Team Great Britain was pretty impressive too. Over 49 games in Divisions 2 and 3 of the international circuit, he racked up an incredible 90 points. He carried the team on his back, literally, helping them earn a spot at the 1994 World Championship. There they faced hockey giants like Russia and Canada. Though Tony went pointless over 6 tough games and the team was relegated back to Division 2, that hardly tells the full story. By his standards, it wasn't a good showing, but it was his near solo effort that had pushed them up to Division 1 in the first place. Tony's success and longevity was impressive to say the least. He kept scoring at over a point per game pace well into his mid to late 40s. From 2001 onward, he didn't just play, he took on a bigger role, serving as an assistant coach for his team while still dominating on the ice. On top of that, he was the head coach of the Great Britain national team, proving that even while still playing, and playing very, very well, he was shaping the future of British hockey both on and off the rink. And on March 21st, 2015, an incredible 34 years after he first stepped onto the ice as a 14-year-old professional, Tony Hand decided it was time to hang up his skates. In that final season with the Manchester Phoenix, he still managed to put up impressive numbers, scoring 11 goals and racking up 57 points over 44 games. But retiring from pro hockey at the age of 47 didn't mean stepping away from the game he loved. Instead, the Scottish Wayne Gretzky smoothly shifted gears and took his talents behind the bench full-time. From 2015 to 2017, he served as head coach for the Manchester Phoenix, guiding the next generation of players. Then in 2018, he took on the challenge of coaching the Great Britain under-20 squad, continuing his lasting impact on British hockey. In recognition of his remarkable career as a player from a non-traditional hockey nation, he was even inducted into the IIHF Hockey Hall of Fame. Since that honor, Tony hasn't stepped away from the game. He returned to coach his old team, the Murrayfield Racers. Today, he is currently coaching the Whitley Warriors of the NIHL. It's clear his passion for the sport runs deep, and it's great to see him still shaping the game. Though Tony never skated in the NHL or played in any of the world's top leagues, his 1986 draft selection was a milestone in itself, putting British hockey on the map. We'll never truly know what might have happened if he stayed in North America. Maybe he would have carved out a solid NHL career. Maybe he would have quietly faded away. Over 1,000 games played, more than 4,000 points scored. Those aren't numbers anyone stumbles upon by accident. That kind of success isn't built on hype, it's built on talent, heart, and consistency. Whether it's under the brightest lights or in a small hometown rink, true greatness always finds a way to shine. So what do you boys think? Could Tony Hand have made it to the big leagues? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I'd love to hear your takes. And if you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe, and check out some of the other hockey tales on the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.